Hello and welcome back to the podcast. I am so thankful to have you here tuning in once again. I'm going to take a deep breath at the beginning of this episode because, first off, welcome to Aries season. Welcome to spring. It is a shift, right? I think if I remember correctly, the beginning of Pisces season, I was like, whew, it hit me probably at midnight because the second I woke up, I was like, it's here, the shift of energy and the end of the year. So we're in a new astrological year. This is going to kind of lead into an update for myself and just, I don't know, this message that needed to come through. But anyway, so we're in a new astrological year. It's for me, it really feels like, yeah, more than the calendar year for me this year, probably. And this has been a few years coming, like slowly and slowly, I'm getting more in sync with these cycles and just having this awareness and the understanding. And it's making so much sense. And I read something earlier today. It was like, like a marketing email, but it was like, this is what the season's bringing. And I was like, this tracks, this makes sense. And, of course, I'm not an astrologer. So, like, this isn't a surprise, like how things are lining up. I was reading about Pluto, I think. Is it Pluto? I don't even remember now. See, it doesn't stick. This is why I'm not an astrologer, because I love the information, but it does not stick. I got to just be in it, talking about it to really enjoy it. But okay, so I was reading, I'm pretty sure it was Pluto, but I was like, this tracks. I can follow along with how this cycle is needed for the time and how there has been this prediction that, systems are going to crumble and things are going to break down and fall apart, right? And it needs to be rebuilt in a way that better serves us. So I'm like, okay, this makes sense. And I had this conversation with Amy. I told her like what I had read and how I was connecting these pieces with like numerology and the new season and the new astrological year. And, I get really fascinated with all of that. And so I've been doing a lot of reflection because along with all the newness going around energetically, I also have started a new cycle. So I am on day one. I am in the comfiest outfit I own, my comfort sweater. I went walking this morning and, it's been like this. Hold on. What world did I just step into? That's the energy that like happened for me, the shift, because it's like walking out into a world where like things that I'm bringing with me, like don't match this new world. It's almost like in movies where like they go into the future and there's like these things that they don't understand how to use. Like there's these things that they don't understand how to use, or like these I can't even think, like phones, right? Like technology. Like when you go into the future, there's things that you're just like, I don't even know what that is or what to do with that. But it's like reverse. So if you were to go into the past, I mean, think about this now, right? Like you show a kid like a cassette and they're like, what is that? It's kind of like I'm going into this new version of myself, but with outdated software. And so things are just kind of dripping in slowly right now. So when Aries season hit, it didn't knock me off my feet necessarily. It really just kind of dug me into a hole because I was like, things are still here that shouldn't be here. So if you're feeling that way, you're not alone, because I think that kind of I feel that that's more than just me. And I say this, with love, because I think a lot of this is like, we need that force, that pressure of like, yeah, we might have known some of these things, like whether it's physical objects, beliefs, or patterns, or people, like relationships in our lives, that like we are aware that might not be serving us, but like, we're not ready to release them. And so we're bumping up to, us honoring our choices and like having free will and saying, like, this isn't really serving me, but I'm still choosing to have it in my life. And then wanting more, like wanting something else. So we're bumping up with like, yeah, like it's not serving me and I can still handle it. But then also wanting to bring in something new, like we're expanding. And so it's like the energy that I felt come in was like, okay, like this is the last straw, like something needs to budge. And it's like big, it's fire, right? Aries is the fire. Like I feel the heat. The heat is here. And it's like, you're either going to do something about this or you're going to stay exactly where you are, but it's going to suck. Like it's going to, wow. I didn't mean it like that harshly, but it's not like, that's not what you want. That's where the fire is coming from, right? It's like the universe is really like, okay, this fire is coming at the perfect time because people really need to understand that the things that they desire, the things that they're working towards, the things that they want to call into their life is literally right here waiting. But we're like holding on to these things because it's easier to hold on to them than to do the work and let it go or to release it. And it's not even work. So some of it might require some actions, but we don't have to look at it as work. And that was one of the shifts that came up for me this last month, is like really shifting your perspective on releasing and endings. Because with the end of a month, the end of the astrological year, we're really celebrating. And in this celebration, we're releasing the things that we are grateful for that have served us up until then. And so if we're not honoring and doing that, then our capacity really, it really shows. And going into, so we can think about all the seasons, all the cycles. And it's like we're going into spring where we want things to bloom. We want things to grow, where things are naturally going to thrive, right? What we're nurturing is going to thrive. So when we're having this idea of how we want things to grow, and we have this ability to nurture and to give it life, right? But a lot of our energy is still tied to the things that actually have nothing to do with that or don't support its growth, and it's sucking your energy because it's not even something that you really want. It's just something that you're tolerating or you're used to. It's comfortable. You're not ready to face what it means to release it. Like, so what does it mean about you to release whatever it is that you need to release? So asking yourself that question was huge for me. Is like, okay, if I need to release this, like, what do I think that means about me? And is that where I'm kind of procrastinating or putting it off? There's like, and this is the other big thing that really came up for me this last month, with recognizing like, okay, I'm so aware of what needs to be released, but actually releasing it and then energetically releasing all the ties to that is a process. And it's like this energy of like, okay, the ties are ready to be cut, but it's the intention behind it. And it's the intentions that you like replace, right? So you're cutting these ties, you're releasing these things, but what are you replacing with? And this is where your intentions are really powerful because you already know what it is that you desire. And this is kind of like this end of the cycle, and where we've been feeling stuck in this kind of like, I've been in this cycle, I've been here before, is this right? If you haven't listened to my last podcast, listen to that, because it might really resonate with this kind of stuck energy where we haven't been able to go anywhere because we've been resisting this release, right? The surrendering to this ending. So new astrological year, new energy, new season, all that. It's lovely. Like this, it's just like, right? It's always exciting because there's always something new and available to us. And I'm excited to see what this new year is bringing. I'm working on this super, super, super fun project, and it's kicking off in Aries season. Like it's launching this season, and It's all around human design and astrology and the gene keys, and it's amazing. It is called the Portal of Potential, and I'll link it below. I am working on it with the founder, of course, my bestie, good friend, mentor, Crystal. And I think that's been another thing that's just really helps me recognize how in sync I am and how much we really are in flow with all the seasons and cycles available to us. So big lessons with this. The last month, Pisces was really like, things need to shed, right? That was like more of this last, I don't even know how many minutes I've been talking right now, but we have to shed. And so if you didn't take the time to shed, or you weren't as intentional, as thorough as you could have been with shedding and releasing last month, you might be feeling that. And that's definitely where I'm at, because personally, there was a lot of like questioning. And that often comes with endings. It's like, is this complete? Is this enough? Like, is this how I want it to look? So there was kind of a lot of back and forth and questioning for me in this last month, and the clarity around that dropped in with, there's just loose ends that I haven't cut off yet, and when I do, like, the back and forth isn't necessary. It doesn't serve any purpose anymore, so you just choose not to. So that was a big process for me in the last week. I would say like 2 weeks, but really the last week was honing in, and I didn't recognize that. I'm like, if I just closed off these ends, and this is a matter of like closing up ways people can contact you. So like old emails, or just like streamlining like how people can contact you. Or this could be like decluttering your space. This could be moving things in your space. Like closing things up, like cutting the cord is one thing, but like energetically closing things up is so freeing. And when you do this, it really just allows clarity to drop in. Like you're just like, oh, I didn't realize that my energy was still like lingering out there, worried about these things that mentally I'm like, no, that's gone. So that was a big energetic release for me this last week, because one, all of my a lot of my intuition and a lot of my just knowings drop in through emotions. It's like get the huge emotional wave, and then I get this clarity drop in, and it's just this process that I have. And I had multiple processes happen last week, and then to know like where I was in my cycle, right? I just started my menstrual phase, so it's like I was just preparing, right? It was almost like Pisces season for me was like, it was like looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing what no longer belonged. Like a snake, like knows, okay, this is the skin that I'm about to shed. I'm just waiting for like one more area to be ready to break free. And that's what Pisces season was all about. It was like, where are those last little bits that are really ready to break free, but I've been holding on? And then you could shed it. And so like going into Aries, like when Aries season came, it was like, no, it is time to shed. Like there's no more time. You feel that fire, like you need to shed and go. And so it was very beautiful, like to come full circle. There were times where I was like, I love feeling so much. And I was really just talking myself through it, like having such deep, intense emotions is a blessing that I don't always recognize. And so lots of affirmations around feeling this last week. But that brings me to my next thing, that I think this podcast is probably going to be all over the place, but I got a boost of energy to come talk, and I love using my throat while I'm on my period, because it's like such a different way of releasing than other ways that my body is currently releasing. And so it's like I'm moving energy up, I'm moving energy down, and anyway. So I got the energy to come talk, and I am somebody who I feel a lot. I feel very deeply. I feel intensely, and I feel uniquely. And, I didn't always know that. I thought everyone felt the way that I feel. And a part of me growing up thought like people just didn't want to admit that they felt what I do. And there was this lack of reciprocation. Like I just didn't see people feeling how I felt. And then when I, had my feelings, it wasn't usually out loud. It wasn't talked about. I wasn't around a lot of big emotions growing up. And so I just felt a little different or unsure of like my experience. I was like, maybe mine is different, So a lot of my emotional knowings as a child was very confusing for me because I wanted to do things that I never saw anybody do, like in processing emotions and expressing emotions, right? And so just not doing that my whole childhood, my whole, lifetime, it caused a lot of suppression, which caused a lot of just suppression of memories, suppression of feelings. And so throughout the last few years of my healing journey, it's become very clear that my, biggest gift is actually feeling. And so over the last 3 years, it's been about unlocking my gifts through feeling. And to say the least, it was like, at first, it was like when you cleaned your room as a kid and you shoved everything in the closet and you just kept shoving in and you're like, it's fine. Like, I don't have to open my closet and it's, it's good. And then eventually when you open it up, it's like, it's all there. And you're like, what a mess. I have to organize everything. But that's basically what I did with a lot of feelings and just a lot of expression. And so, when you just keep shoving things in one spot and then eventually you're like an adult and you're like, I want to better myself. I want to be a better parent. I want to do all these things. And you learn about personal development and you start getting self-aware and, all the things I did over the last 5 years. And you start getting curious about yourself and you start opening doors and asking questions like, why don't I remember this? And like, why don't I know what I like to do when I was a kid? And like, you start getting curious, you start opening doors and that's when my intuitive gifts turned on, like really loudly, because I opened this door and it was so chaotic and it was so messy. One, it was just overload. Because I will say, like right now, something that I have accomplished this year is taking a psychic development course. I'm stoked about. I'll share more about at another time. But I've always known that feeling is like my biggest gift. And along with the feeling came the knowing. But it was like they work together, right? And so when I kind of opened that door and I said, it's safe for me to feel, like it was a whole healing wound process, right? Like, and this is not just this lifetime. This is like a wound that was rooted in multiple lifetimes, but the whole feelings, right? Knowing that it's okay to feel, like feeling is necessary. Feeling is our body's way of communicating with us. It is safe to feel. It is safe to express how we feel. There are beautiful things that happen when you allow yourself to feel. All of these things that I just had no idea. I was like, you got to figure out your feelings. You got to feel it and put it away or pretend like it didn't happen, or you got to move on. Just move on, right? And so when I finally said, no, I'm ready to look at this, it was just a lot of weight for one. So I had a couple days where I just couldn't, I could not function. And then the time after that, so like I basically felt like a stream of water, like there was like memories and emotions just flowing out of me. And then it was basically, I can't be around anyone because I feel too much. I feel everything. And so, I had to work with that. Like I had to figure that out, and I had to make some decisions, right? Because you have a choice. Like I could just decide, like I'm done feeling for right now, but knowing like, okay, what are my boundaries going to be around that, and when am I going to create the space to feel what I need to feel, to express what I feel, to release what I feel that isn't mine. I had to like do all this stuff, recognizing that I should finish that thought. I had to do all this stuff to like educate myself. I surrounded myself by people who knew what was happening to me. I hired mentors. Like I did this because I knew that this was a gift. I did this because I knew everything that I felt shameful about or guilty about for the way that I felt growing up, for the way that I felt as an adult in relationships when I was told that my feelings are wrong, are not making sense, are not supported, are old, childish. Anyway, got off on a tangent there, right? So all the things we're told about our feelings, it was it was a rebirth in itself, right? To then say, no, like this is my gift. So really claiming that it was overload. So needless to say, I had this awakening. This was a few years ago. And realizing, okay, I feel so intently, and I'm going to decide how this is going to serve me. and that like my guides are laughing because like yes, you can decide, but at the same time, like I'm here on a mission and things are going to happen for the way that they need to happen. Like they're going to lead me to where I need to go. And so much has come up through this like, because I am so willing to feel. This is how I do energy work. This is how I connect with animals. This is how I talk to my guides. This is how I talk to animals. This is how, I do so much. And a lot of my work is just because I'm able to feel into it. Like I'm open to it. And because I've spent so much time doing this, when like personal stuff comes up, like I do this for my work, right? But like in personal things, the feelings are so intimate and deep that I still have this like missing puzzle piece. Like it feels like something's missing. It feels like a piece of loneliness almost, because like growing up, I was like, nobody else feels like they have to say how they feel. Like, like it was just this disconnect for me. So I just didn't. Like, I didn't talk about it. I didn't express my feelings at all. And so I shouldn't say at all, but not regularly. And so, I don't even know where I was going with this. I know where I was going with it, but I got sidetracked there for a minute. So definitely some emotions are coming up as we speak. But, a part of me still wishes or thinks that like I need somebody to understand how I feel. And not just understand, but like nobody is going to feel exactly how I feel. And that is something that I think still trips me up, because in my very deep lows, there's times where I'm just like, I just wish somebody could like feel how this feels. And not because like I want them to agree with me or like anything like that. It's like the intensity, like I say it's intimate, like the feeling, it feels so deep. That's how I know things are mine. Like when I feel something that's not mine, like I know because it's just not, like unless it's something little, but I'm talking like something big, like something that's ready to be worked out, something like a wound that's coming up. And I've had Pisces season really brought a lot of wounds to the surface for me. And so, you know, when I have these big feelings come up, there's still glimpses where I'm like, I long to be understood. And don't get me wrong, I am so supported. I love my whole tribe. Like everyone around me is honestly the best. And honestly, the people that I tell my deepest feelings to, like, I know they can literally feel, my energy. And I know they will hold space for me no matter what. And like, I feel that. But there's always like this part of me that's like, but they don't feel what I feel. And I like, it goes both ways. Like it goes with the low. Like I think about a lot with the lows because there is this like piece of loneliness to it. I don't feel lonely. It's not that, but it's just like, it's profound that I'm like, this is it, actually. This is the gift because nobody feels exactly what I feel, but at the same time, like higher vibrations, joy, for how deeply I can feel grief and sadness and anger, I can feel joy on the highest mountain. And that's what I'm like, but nobody's experiencing what I feel then either. And so there's this just this longing of wanting to express so deeply that you can feel it. And and it gets me so tripped up sometimes, like when I express myself and I don't feel like I'm understood, or I don't feel like the other person gets it, I get real triggered. And it's really an insecure thing for me. And so I'm telling you this because I had a real emotional time. Was that yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. And I don't always share my deepest emotions because sometimes I just go to the depths to experience that emotion, but it doesn't hold weight in like how I feel like moving on, like big picture, right? And so I don't always share my deepest emotions, or like I don't always like vocalize them to anyone. Sometimes I'll talk them out loud, sometimes I'll write them, but like I don't tell Amy all of my deepest emotions because why? Like, I don't need to give her that if it's not something that I'm even going to carry forward, So, anyway, I've had some really deep emotions processing for a little bit. And so, yesterday I decided to release them. And I released them to Amy, and I it was a relief to express them, which is probably why I have this energy to express again today. But I expressed myself, and I've grown a lot. I'm going to say this because I have grown a lot. There have been times where I don't say things because I don't want to hear that it doesn't make sense to people, or I don't want to feel that they don't agree. Like they don't even have to tell me that they don't agree. I can feel it. And so like, right, I just have filtered what I said or not said things because of people's reaction or not reaction. And I knew that me saying what I had to express was way more important than no matter what happened after. And so like I wasn't expecting anything. And I also know that like a lot of my emotions that I was expressing had, my opinions and my truth in it that I know not everyone holds. And so it was a lovely release, and I felt supported. And in that moment, I was then by myself, and I a lot of memories came back. And I was just like, what is it that I'm so like, okay, I expressed myself. I feel this. I'm going to feel it. And now I'm by myself. And it just took me back to my childhood where I never processed my emotions as a child, because instead of being by myself and feeling, I was by myself wondering why nobody else feels this, or why I think nobody else feels this, right? Like, why do I feel alone? Like, why do I feel like nobody else feels this deeply, or nobody else understands that this feeling can come on so deeply, quickly, promptly, whatever. And so then yesterday I found myself by myself, and I had this thought of like, why am I by myself? Like, did I say something wrong? Did I, all this thing, all the things, all the thoughts. And I grounded myself in that moment, and I knew, and I said, no, it's no longer time to worry about why somebody else might not feel this way. Why nobody else might not feel this way. And it's time to focus on what I'm feeling. And so then, I had this huge, profound moment by myself. And what's unique is I am someone who loves being by myself, but there's something really raw about being left when somebody knows that you're experiencing a deep emotion. And in that moment, I was like, it is because, yes, like, our feelings and our experiences are the reason we connect with others, but our feelings are to be expressed, are to be experienced, and to be released by us, by ourselves, right? And I had to just like for how long I've thought and how much energy I've put into, why does anyone else feel this way? Or why can't people understand why I feel this way? I don't need them to feel how I feel. I want them to understand that I'm feeling this. And it really just took the pressure off of anyone else. One, like, it's nobody else's responsibility to understand me. I know that. My wounded child doesn't know that. And so it was this moment of, this is a blessing to be by myself and to be able to feel this, so I can feel this with my inner child, and it's not like, how many times have I gotten tripped up on that and haven't focused on my feeling, but rather focused on, why don't they care that I feel this way? Why don't they feel this way? Why don't they understand that I have this big feeling? Why don't, all this stuff, all that's doing is avoiding feeling what needs to be felt, is avoiding the actual emotion. So it's taking whatever our emotion's dropping in and turning it into this victim mode, and don't get me wrong, right? These thoughts have stemmed from not having a safe space to express myself, not being supported in expressing myself, right? It's stemmed from like learned behaviors and conditioning that nobody, this is not to point fingers at anyone, of course. This is just to say, I didn't have the knowledge and the confidence to say, this is how I feel, and it's okay. For years and years and years and years. And a lot of my processing feelings was done, never, or in the dark, or, or like in some form of just like, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Not outbreak, but just kind of like a little, that's probably where I got my rebellious side from. Wow, that was just a whole other insight that just dropped in. But I think that so many behaviors can come up from not expressing emotions. I'll just put it at that. And like like a lot of behaviors could come up from this. But one of the mindset shifts, or like one of the beliefs I formed, was that it's not safe to express if nobody else feels the same way. Right? And yesterday I was like, wait. My whole purpose, according to my human design, according to my like there's so much in my star codes, right? That is really here about that I'm really here for self-expression. And so it's like, okay, if I'm here to self-express, but I'm not expressing myself because I think somebody else has to feel what I feel, like I'm literally not living my purpose. And you know, this is a general thing that I was really happy. I was working with really detailed pieces of information, and it's like it was just this big aha moment that it's like, you know, we get so caught up about not being understood, especially with our feelings, so we just don't talk about them, we don't share them, you know. And I'm like, I'm done with that. I have some really wild feelings that come up, and sometimes I'm like, why the hell am I feeling this? And instead of judging it and just observing it, something really amazing always happens right after it. And it could be just like knowing something, but it could be that then I'm led to something that helps me run into somebody that I need to talk to, right? And so it's like being able to release that expectation. Like I'm just, it's like shifting. It's like this new version of myself is blossoming because it's spring, you know, and this new version is just ready to come out and be like, you know what? We don't need to be understood. We don't need to make sense. And that's like how our feelings operate. Our feelings drop in. They don't need to be understood. They don't need to make sense to anyone else. Heck, they don't even need to make sense to you. But being able to surrender, to accept, I will guarantee a lot more will drop in from that than judging it, worrying about releasing it. So oftentimes I got in the habit of doing that. It's like, so over the last few years, I've really experimented with, you know, emotions and ways that best serve me to release them. And you can get, it's like a pendulum where most of my life I'm like, oh, there's a feeling, let's put it away. Like I just chose to not feel it, right? And then there's this, let's sit in it. And you can sit in it and sit in it and sit in it. And like, you could choose to just sit in it. And then you find yourself like always kind of in that emotion. Like I like to, my best example for this is annoyance is not really an emotion. And maybe it is, correct me if I'm wrong, but annoyance, it's a vibration. It might be a feeling. I'm feeling annoyed. Yes, it is. Okay. I just talked that out. But this is like the easiest loop to get caught in. I know from experience. If you allow yourself to feel annoyed, then, and you're like, I just want to be annoyed right now. Let me be annoyed. You're going to start to find a lot more things annoying. You just will. Because the more like there's things that like, so there's some things that are just like easier to settle into, and it's going to be different depending on the person. And this might be your not self theme. So if you're into human design, you look at your not self theme, frustration. Mine's frustration and anger, but like frustration for me, anger has developed more as an adult. I'm gonna explain that a little bit later, but frustration is just very easy for me to settle and like almost get comfortable in. And my throat is just like opening up. um, but the same with annoyance. Annoyance is really easy to get settled in. And so it's like this pendulum of, okay, you can like shut out the emotion real quick, but all that's really doing is adding it to this energy ball that's going to sit in your gut and just grow and grow. And then there's the other way of where you're just choosing to kind of sit in emotions longer than you need to. And so the past few years, it's really been this experiment of like, okay, what's this part of the pendulum feel like? And what's this part of the pendulum feel like? And depending on the emotion, depending on the, situation, like there's a different place in the pendulum that you might want to be at. And it's really up to you. Like there's no right or wrong. And there's some emotions like joy, right? The higher vibration emotions, like there is too long. Like you can, and this goes into a whole other topic we're not going to talk about today, but like spiritual bypassing or toxic positivity, like this falls into that, where you're just kind of like stuck in the higher vibes and you're not allowing yourself to come down and experience the wisdom of the lower vibrations, right? Like think about this. We are here as humans. There are these emotions, like that the chemicals are there created in our brain. Like we're not here to not experience sadness. Sorry, all you English people. We're not here to like turn off our emotions. I've done that. It's 222. I've done that. It's not recommended. It's not. So that's kind of like my whole Pisces season wrap up. And I'm really excited to just step into the fire. Although like that's going to require you to shed some more layers. Like if you're feeling this kind of like, what the hell just happened? Or this like sludgy kind of feeling, it just, no, like this is the thing. The energy has shifted, right? The cosmos are doing their thing. Transit's different, doing their thing. Things are always changing. The energy is always changing. That doesn't mean like it's a light switch for you. It doesn't mean you have to like jump ship the next day. If you're still feeling kind of sluggish and like tied down, like what else do you need to release? That's all. That's for me, the lesson of this ending of the astrological year is like some things carry over, and it's okay to take that time to clear it out and know that like the fire's coming. I'm excited. I just got like a burst of energy, which is fun because about an hour and a half ago, I was rolled up on my couch in so much pain. So I got this cool deck. We're going to pull from it. It's very cool. The Archeo. I don't know. Maybe I'm saying that wrong. Personal archetype cards. The Archeo. I don't know. All the people correct me if I'm wrong on this stuff, please. They're very, very cool cards. If you're watching on YouTube, you get the joy of seeing some of the artwork. So cool. So we're gonna pull a couple cards and then we're gonna wrap up because I'm feeling my throat chakra it's not burning, but it feels like pop rocks. It's popping. Like little tiny ones. Not the big poppers. Okay. Let's see. I'm feeling two. We'll see what comes through. And these are, ooh, These are new cards, newer cards. So yeah, these are both cards I've never pulled before. How cool. Okay, we got the Siren. I think it goes that way. And then we got the Jester. This is so funny. The visual of this card, one of my guides, I like call him in, and this is like how I picture him walking in, like just kind of like anyway. Okay. So we're gonna look at the back. I get like such a playful energy from the Jester, but then when I look at the Siren, it's very like, you know, desiring and just kind of like, come here. Okay, the Siren exists in the eyes of those who crave her, and because desire has a habit of turning to guilt and then to blame, she is seen as a destructive temptress. She is seen as the epitome of sexuality and allure, sometimes charming and elegant, other times blatantly provocative and even evil. In reality, the Siren is ambiguous, not to herself, but to those who envy her or want her. Whether Countess or courtesan, Venus or Kali, her sensuality has the power to disturb and confuse those who cannot take their eyes off of her. She is two sides of a single figure, a manifestation of sublime beauty and hellfire of destruction. But the Siren is more. She is highly intelligent, and like the wolf, she has made peace with her hungers. She understands her body's needs, and she has learned to rise above the crude duplicity of men. Ooh. Calling to you from the rocks, but if you pass beyond her jagged shoreline, she is far more. She provides you with the opportunity to examine your destructive desires, and if you permit her, she will teach you the art of directing your passions away from hedonism and toward a loving union. Interesting. Okay, and then the Jester, I just passed him. The Jester may act like a fool, but he is far from being one. A philosopher clown with an ironic sense of humor, he refuses to be misdirected by the whims of kings. Unlike the puckish trickster, who is dedicated to causing insightful mischief, the Jester takes a wider view of existence. His wit is at root profound, and his eyes are open to both the grandeur and the futility of existence. I love this. Okay. This is so interesting that these cards came together. Like the Siren is like literally calling out to people, like calling out to you and like is attracting you in, right? And the Jester like almost wants to blend, like, yes, really trickster and is funny, but does it in a way to blend in. So the energies that are coming together is like there's this like new identity emerging of the way we show up and the energy that we decide to bring is going to influence how our environment operates with us and the people in our environment interact with us, right? So this ability to influence the environment, this ability to influence those around you based off of how you're showing up, like between the two cards. Very cool. I really liked the idea that, you know, the Siren really helps you understand your desires. And the Jester's really like makes sense of things. Like can make sense out of anything. It's really like he just makes things make sense. And he can like put two and two together even if you don't think they add up, right? And so it's like making sense or like finding clarity in what your desires are. finding clarity and taking action to your desires. So there's going to be like this sense of like, okay, I feel like I've known what I wanted, right? But then there's like this other piece that's like, oh, wait, yes, I want that, but I actually want it to be like this. Or like it's either like bigger or it's like slightly different than what you originally thought. And part of that is from shedding, like the releasing. When you release some of these beliefs that you're working on, or even some of the physical items, your energy shifts. Your desires are going to shift. So having this ability to like hone in and get really like intimate of like, I can see within myself to know like what it is that I desire. And as I'm moving and shifting and rearranging things in my life, my desires are shifting, but the clarity is also coming in because I'm being playful, because I'm coming at it with love, right? I'm coming at it with acceptance of what it is. So, that message is very, very powerful, especially to start off the new year. I think surrendering to new ideas, new beginnings, surrendering to shifts in your desires, and know, like, as you're open to change things, as you are open to doing things differently, things are going to play out differently. So be open to that and have fun with it. All right. That was such a good message. I love that for us. Okay, we're going to wrap up here. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love to see you guys leave a review. That really helps with the show. And also you can feel free to share it on socials, or if you just want to share it with a friend or a loved one who you think might need to hear this message, I would love that too. And I did update my Instagram account too at the Intuition Playground. So be sure to tag me there, and it's updated on YouTube as well. So thank you again for your support and tuning into this episode, and I will talk to you all next time on the Intuition Playground.